I'm Rob Skinner, and this is the Rob Skinner Podcast. Today I'm talking about the power of focus. And this comes from a sermon I recently did here in Boston. All this and more on the Rob Skinner Podcast. Welcome back to the Rob Skinner Podcast. My goal is to inspire you to live a no regrets life, make this life count, and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. Today, I want to talk about a simple but life-changing idea. Your life follows your focus. Hebrews 12 says, "Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith." Notice the phrase, "fix your eyes." Attention is a decision. It's not an accident. What you look at consistently will shape the person you become. I learned this lesson in a funny way through a friend of mine named Gabe Santos. Gabe is also a minister on the staff here in Boston. I was getting to know people. We sat together, and I thought, this guy looks a lot like me. And I started talking to him about his background. I expected him to be from the Boston area or somewhere in the States. Turns out he's actually from Venezuela. And I'm like, what? You're from Venezuela? And one, he didn't look what my idea of a Venezuelan person. He looked a lot like me, just a kind of a standard white guy. And then secondly, his English was like perfect. So I'm like, Gabe, how come you don't have a Spanish accent? And he said, well, actually, when I was growing up, I didn't move to the States till I was like 19 or something, his teenage years. And I'm like, I'm even more blown away. And he said, what happened? I took classes on English, but I could never stick to the class. I was just kind of hopeless. I didn't like the class, couldn't focus, couldn't concentrate, didn't like the grammar, didn't like the way they were teaching. And so finally, in a kind of a desperation move, the teacher goes, well, listen, just go home, watch American TV, and just try to imitate what they're doing on TV. And so he took that advice, went home, started watching Transformer shows and G.I. Joe. So you can imagine this kid's like probably 8 or 10 or something, going home, just loving it. And he is just watching these shows. And guess what? He sounds like G.I. Joe now. I mean, he's got this great, perfect, flawless English. He listened to the dialogue, he copied the sounds, he watched what he saw on TV, and eventually he spoke accent-free English. Why? Because what you focus on shapes you, and your brain adapts to what you repeatedly see and hear. The same thing happens spiritually. If your attention is consistently on anxiety, social media, drama, money, comparison, and success, you slowly become shaped by those things. But if you keep putting your eyes on Jesus, something different happens, something powerful. You begin to absorb his character. You begin to look, maybe not look, but at least sound like Jesus, his humility, his courage, his love. The Christian life is not simply about believing the right ideas. It's about learning to keep your attention on Christ. And that's how transformation happens. One of my favorite scriptures is in 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 18, where it says, "And we all with who unveiled faces reflect the Lord's glory are being transformed into his likeness with ever increasing glory, which comes from the Lord." And it's kind of a long passage, but he's talking about Moses and how Moses would go to the tent of meeting and spend time with God. He'd take off the veil and be in the presence of God. Just look at God and look at his glory. And when he came out, his face was glowing. And then he would put the veil down to hide the fact that the glory was fading away. And Paul just makes an analogy that the Old Testament, the Old Covenant, is fading away in glory. But when you become a Christian, it's exactly the opposite. As we reflect or contemplate, that's also the word translated there. When we reflect on the glory of the Lord, guess what? We are changed into his image. We're transformed into the image of Christ. It's so awesome when you think about that. And that means that spiritual change starts with attention. You become what you behold. And this is why this is so, so important in this day and age, because everyone is paying big money for your attention and they are fighting for it. And you've got brains that are just thinking, how can I get a little bit more of this person's attention? So here's something simple you can try this week. Spend time reading passages that focus directly on Jesus and the character of God. Slow down when you read them. Think about what they reveal about Jesus and let them reshape the way you see God. Choose Christological passages, or basically Christ-centered passages, because your life follows your focus. And if your focus stays on Christ long enough, your life will begin to look like his. Thanks for listening. Here's how you can help support the program. First, sign up for my weekly newsletter. Just go to my website, robskinner.com, and you can also look in the show notes here on the podcast and sign up. I'd love to be able to send you weekly encouraging newsletters that I send out every week, just to encourage people and to keep in touch with you. Secondly, read and review my latest book, The 10X Christian. It's a great book. Love for you to read it. It'll help you. It'll help you to grow. You can find that on Amazon.com, or else you can go to robskinner.com and find it there. Here's my inspiration, is I want to inspire you to live a no regrets life, make this life count, and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. Have a great day and make this life count.